Who's interested in personalization? Yes, yes, love it. All right, why? Oh, goodness. I'm not going to get into a lot of the specifics on, why it's important. I think, everybody's probably seen and heard of the stats on why it is important. There's tons of data out here to support this now. Everybody's done a study. Forrester, Nielsen, Sitecore, Adobe, they've all done studies on why it's important. It obviously increases conversions. It increases the likelihood of return to purchase. So all I'm going to say about that is it's a good thing. You need to be doing it. But why aren't people doing it today? And I think there's tons of great, real reasons of why people aren't doing it today. One of those is nobody's really put in charge and doing that task. There is the people are not, really, the teams are not structured well in order to support the Sitecore platform, going forward. Come on in, guys. Hi there. So we have, in the back here, we have Scotty's Deli. You can absolutely grab you some lunch and dig in. I was just getting started with personalization. So, Sabina, how you doing? Good. No, you're fine. So, the team structure is one thing. Nobody's put in charge. Two, you may not have the right people. It doesn't necessarily take a really great marketer to do personalization, but there is a few different things that you need to watch out for in putting in personalization, because to the next point, it's as much a content strategy thing as it is a technical strategy for implementing personalization. Out of the box, you get personalization as a feature and functionality in Sitecore. But the content strategy that you need to use in order to for you to understand what you need to implement is a whole nother issue. And so your team may not be readied for that kind of transition. And then lastly, and this kind of goes along with the number 3, is usually companies are lacking the organizational processes. And this is a little bit speaking to, there's still some silos going on with product teams and, groups within the organization that want to control pieces of it. So oftentimes the organizational processes are a result of kind of an internal structure that isn't supportive of a good content strategy. So these are just things to be aware of, but if you're impatient, or as you can read this, you just want to get some quick wins, there are resources out here, and one that I'll put on the Slack channel is the 10 personalization tactics by the Sitecore Business Optimization Strategies team. And this is it's 11 pages. It's a great quick read, and it'll give you a lot of great tactical things, of course, by the name of it, it's tactics. But, there are some simple things like, IP-based personalization. So these are rules-based. Some of these are rules-based thing. From an IP or a customer domain or something like that, you can put a personalization maybe on a banner on the front page or something like that. So these are very tactical, generally easy to implement. But if you are serious about personalization, I highly recommend starting with the book Connect. It's by Lars Berchtold Peterson. And yes, thank you, Gilbert. Ron Person and Chris Nash, all three of them are on the Sitecore Business Optimization Strategies team at Sitecore. And they put together this book a couple of years ago. It's a really, really great, it's not one of those that you on a Sunday, you kind of cuddle up and with a blanket and sit down with Connect, right? But it is one that you can definitely be tactical with. So you can pull it up, jump into the middle of it, or jump into the end of it, depending on where you're at in the maturity model, or just read it straight through if you just need understanding the whole shebang. But it's a great book. It's 250 pages or so. So if you're serious about it, I would say that's the first place you need to go. So in understanding where the maturity model, and I just mentioned the maturity model, where that kind of makes, where that kind of is kind of in the personalization kind of area here. As you can see with this capabilities are mapped to this customer experience maturity model. And companies are 80-something%, I think the 86 or 85% of companies now are still in this first stage, the attract stage. So this is the Sitecore maturity model. Who has seen this before? Okay. So the maturity model is basically Sitecore's look at the industry and saying, what's all that's provided in the Sitecore experience platform, and what are we trying to enable companies to do, right? We're trying to get lifetime customers, quite honestly. We're trying to convert users, or attract users, convert users, and then have an advocate, okay? And so at the bottom here, these 3 stages, attract, convert, and advocate, those are the high-level stages, but each stage in between, these are actually the phases in between, have particular capabilities that Sitecore maps this to, okay? So back on this earlier slide, we don't get into, things like basic email marketing, right? These are right up front in the initiate phase. We don't get into rules-based personalization until we get into the optimize phase, which starts the convert stage of the maturity model. So you're not alone if you're not doing personalization today, because as Sitecore has told us, 80% of the people that are out there are not past this attract stage, okay? Is that surprising to many people? They own it, but they're not using it beyond a content management system, okay? So that's what the first stage here is, really understanding where you fit in this maturity model. So go to connecttheexperience.com, and I'll post these links up on the Slack team. The Connect the Experience is actually the site for the book, so you can order the book and everything there. But also at this link, CX Maturity Assessment is the link it'll take you through. You could spend 10-15 minutes going through, and basically it'll spit out a report for you and tell you exactly where you're at based on those answers. Okay. I would say that's the first thing if you're serious about getting into personalization, because knowing where you're at obviously is very important to get you where you intend to be. Okay? On a parallel path, I would also say you have to know your customer, right? And so typically we do persona exercises where we fully understand the 4 to 7 personas or so, who your customer base is, right? So if you're a retail organization, there may be segments of that population based on the types of things that you sell, right? It could also be things like career-driven people. The persona could be engineers, or it could be retailers, or whatever it is, right? So get to know your personas and get to know them well. And we use this where it gives some demographic information. We have user goals, which is very important, and the business objectives, very important, and then the profile of that person, which speaks to more personality attributes. The reason why we set up a persona this way is because it maps up directly into Sitecore's profiling and predictive personalization strategy inside of Sitecore. So there's all sorts of persona templates that you can get online, but we found that providing this information, I don't need to get into much about her name and where she goes to eat and everything. If that's your thing, that's great. But we're using it to set up personas, profiles, and patterns inside of Sitecore. Okay. Mapping out, and I'm going to go through fast because I've got 20 minutes to go through. So in about 10-15 minutes, I'll give it a wrap. The next piece here is mapping out the strategic objectives. There should be a couple people in your organization sits near the top that understands the strategic objectives of that organization. If there isn't, you probably need to get out now. Just saying. We're hiring? No, just kidding. we have our strategic objectives down, so yeah. Anyway, So get an understanding of what those are from those individuals and put those in a framework like this, because those are going to filter down into marketing objectives, which will kind of segment those objectives out into things like subscriber growth could be one, or in-store conversions, or whatever the marketing objectives are going to be. There's going to probably be a lot of them, right? And because of that, you're going to need to put down further the digital goals that map to those marketing objectives. The digital goals we're not just talking about website here. Oftentimes we're talking about mobile apps, we're talking about email, we're talking about kiosks, things that are, related to digital, but it's not necessarily in Sitecore. In some cases, some of our customers can control all of that inside of Sitecore, the content and the goals and all that kind of stuff, and even connect out to external systems through FXM. But get an idea of what those digital goals are and document them. Because as we're going to go through the next phase here, we're going to create an engagement value scale out of that. When I've done these, we do these all the time, but when I've done them, they can range anywhere from just one of these pyramids to several pyramids based on the strategic objectives that you have, okay? So if you look at a simple one, a site will have, oftentimes a site will have request a call, request for quote, or signing up for a webinar, watching a video, engaging with content and stuff like that, right? So we take those digital goals that we did on the preceding step, we map these out in a big old list, and then we put a nice little pyramid and give it an arbitrary value from 100 to 0. And what we're trying to do is take those digital goals and prioritize them in that list from top to bottom, okay? So the high value types of goals are at the top, right? Medium goals and then low. And a digital goal, all that means when you're plugging these in, these confirm a level of commitment from that person visiting that channel, okay? So if they're actually giving you a call through a button on your site, like requesting a call, or they're asking you to receive a quote, there's a lot of commitment involved from their end to give you that information, to provide the information and ask for it, right? So we place that really high value because that's probably indicative of someone that's ready to buy, or at least on the cusp of buying, okay? Or engaging. And so, we put those in that high, medium, and low. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to. And what we need to do is prioritize our customers through a methodology we call PI. PI is really simple. It's easy as pie. So we take those personas that we learned about earlier, right? We can't focus on a whole persona maybe at one time. We have to kind of break these things out in chunks and then segment them. And we use PI, which is P is for potential. So high potential, large potential to meet our strategic objectives if we target this type of person. That's a P. I is for importance. Are they going to make a big enough impact if we focus on these type of people? E is for ease. Are they easy to identify when they arrive to the site? Are they easy to put into some type of segmentation list? And the combination of those are typically the best, right? You can easily identify career. Maybe career is not one of the strategic objectives for your marketing department. Maybe it just kind of happens, big companies or companies all over the board have great reputations, and maybe that's just a part of it. Maybe you don't have to try hard. They just come in, and you can easily. But are they going to be important for your strategic objective? Are they going to make a big enough impact for your bottom line? Maybe, maybe not. I'm looking across the companies here, and I know, okay, WashU, right? It's really important for grants, right? So people out there picking and choosing what school they're going to go to, depending on the grants and the research capabilities of the organization. That's extremely important for your organization, right? An engineer trying to find a job for Watlow, Craig, that's extremely important. So I can't map necessarily individually for the companies, but you need to find what the best segment is, for that population. Okay. Then also and if you need me to stop at any phase and like explain, you know, where I just want to get through, and I'm going to provide you like a all-in-one document that'll show you like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Customer journey. Have an idea. This is just a basic customer journey. You probably have seen a customer journey before, kind of like this: awareness, consideration, and so forth. Have an idea what that customer journey is, because when we get into the next step, digital relevancy mapping, then some content strategy processes start to kick off. What we typically do with clients, and our spreadsheet's really big, this is just an example, because we also incorporate that with what's called a content matrix. Has anybody heard of that before? Yeah, good job, all right. Yeah. It's really simple. It's just a matrix of your segments on the left-hand side. If you don't have very specific segments, you can use personas. And then up at the top, that's your customer journey. So you just map out awareness all the way down. This one's customized to a travel company. And then in here, you're essentially putting three things. You're putting the objective that you want to achieve with that person with that message. You're putting the description of the message, and you're providing what that call to action is going to be for that person at that step. Okay, so ideally, you want to map your content out in such a way that you're saying, okay, this is the person that's ready to, you know, they're almost there in the buying process, right? And say that's this talk segment, what is going to be that next thing that you provide them to get them from that point where they're requesting a quote to actually making a purchase? That hones in on your strategy a lot better than just kind of willy-nilly content strategy, just putting something out there and seeing if they're in a click. Because the next one of the most important pieces here is that, and I'm sorry for the eye chart, I don't know what's going on with the 3D thing. It really messes with my eyes, but is testing and optimizing. Okay, so in order for, I know it's like hard. Aaron's like, I'm not sure about that. right? It's not a Mac thing. Gosh, jeez. It's because we're in the Microsoft building, isn't it? Yeah. Testing and optimizing, extremely important, because, and Sitecore actually has the tools built into it with page and component, A/B and multivariate testing, with email testing. So these pieces are built right in, and many times can automatically make the decision for you based on the criteria you put in there. So get to understand the practices that you put into place for personalization, whether it's rules-based. Rules-based is, you have a banner on the home page and you want to identify the GeoIP of someone coming in and then switch the message just for that person. Or another example, and these are in the tactics guide too. Another example is if they've looked at certain pages and identified with a particular persona, that will switch that content depending on what, where you're at in the site. So these things, the strategic processes in there, those are all very important for you to put into Sitecore, because the way Sitecore is developed has these things in the marketing control panel. Have you guys been in there at all? Marketing control panel? Some of you. These are set up in a way where that process is just plug and play. You get the requirements, you put it in a document, you put it into Sitecore, you test and optimize, rinse and repeat, romp appeal, set it and forget it, that kind of thing. Okay, did you like that? No. Okay, moving forward. Putting it all together. So we'll provide we'll provide what we call the Context Marketing Personalization Planner. It'll be provided to everybody in the Slack team. And if anybody needs just a link to it or download, or just like a direct file, if you don't want to mess with Slack, I understand you may have some organizational processes there. Send us a message and through the meetup, and we'll absolutely post it or get it in front of you. So the personalization planner, let me just pull up that really quick. All right. So it takes you through every step. It's not the most spacious of documents, and that's okay, because it's trying to achieve a lot in a 3 slides here. Step 1, you go through the about the site, you plot yourself wherever your maturity is on that maturity scale. Step 2, you go through that evaluation scale. Step 3, prioritize the visitor segments. Step 4, describe that journey. 5, relevancy mapping. 6, this is where we get into concepting and figuring out where where do you want to personalize, and then you're actually going to make some mock-ups of where those changes are going to be. And then after that, it's not on here, but it's that testing and optimization process. So we'll provide this in the Slack channel, and again, you can request that from us, and we'll give that to you as well.